The movie introduces us to Joseph, a young farmer who is returning home after a productive day in the fields. Upon seeing his mother and sisters, Joseph tries to greet them, but loses his balance and falls from the tractor. The last thing he heard was his mother screaming in despair, although right now she has just woken him up from that nightmare. Joseph is now a middle-aged man who still lives on the farm with his mother, who is sick with cancer. Moreover, the nightmare holds some truth because Joseph limps when he walks, the result of the tractor accident. With his trusty cane, he heads to the barn to milk his cows, which he sees not so much as his property, but as his only friends. Afterwards, he shows up at the local school where he works as a teacher alongside Rose, a widowed woman he has been dating for years. However, they still haven't taken the next step, mainly because Rose's son, Robert, feels awkward treating his teacher as his stepfather. While she is in charge of the younger children, Joseph teaches the teenagers and assures them he will do whatever it takes to prevent the school from closing. In the middle of his speech, a girl named Catherine walks into the classroom and eclipses everyone with her beauty. After revealing that she has just moved to town, the girl sits right behind Robert, who cannot hide his delight. That night, the teacher visits Rose to talk about the future of the school. However, she does not see it as a bad thing, but rather as an opportunity for them to get married and start a life together, especially since her son is going to college. Ignoring her suggestion, Joseph states that he has to go back home to care for his mother. The next day, the protagonist receives a visit from Catherine and her father, Nathan, a retired soldier who asks him to care for his daughter's horse in his barn, since they do not have one. As soon as Joseph agrees, Catherine rides the horse around the farm. Joseph offers to drive her home when she finishes. After leaving the horse in the barn, she asks if she can come every day, to which he also agrees, enchanted by her youth and charisma. On the way to Catherine's house, Joseph confesses that this will be his last year teaching and that he does not know what the future holds, describing himself as a mediocre teacher and an even worse farmer. Even so, the girl is sure that he is good at something and sets out to discover what it is. At another moment, Joseph talks with Evans, his mother's doctor, who tells him that she is suffering more than it seems and gives her at most 1 more year to live. Chemotherapy is an option, but Joseph believes she has already decided to leave this world. Later at school, Catherine assumes a provocative position in her seat, prompting Joseph to turn his gaze toward Rose, who is playing with the children in the playground. Back in his barn, he finds the girl resting in the top part of the barn, so he sits next to her. After all, not many people visit him, but she takes it as a sign and takes off her shirt. Outraged, Joseph immediately walks away, although when he sees that the only thing awaiting him is his sick mother, he decides to go back to Catherine. In that little corner of the barn, they make passionate love with only the animals as their witnesses. When they finish, the teacher shows some remorse for sleeping with a student. However, if it is any consolation, she assures him that he has given her the greatest pleasure she has ever experienced. Another day, Joseph appears before the school board, which threatens to close his small school because he lacks proper teaching credentials. His only defense is that if they close the institution, the students would have to travel almost 100 kilometers to reach the next closest school. Unfortunately, the board had already made a decision before the meeting, so Joseph sarcastically insults them, making the parents and students who are fond of him laugh. That night, Rose tells him that it is time to get married, to which Joseph replies that he only wants to make her happy, but is unsure if happiness necessarily involves marriage. Faced with his uncertainty, the woman returns home angry. At dawn, Joseph plays the piano for the first time in a long while, and as soon as he finishes, he breaks down and cries like a child. Just like his mother, who heard him from her room. Since everything seems to be about rediscovering old hobbies, Evan gives the protagonist his most precious hunting rifle, which he can no longer use due to old age. Who better than an enthusiastic hunter like Joseph to make the most of it? Immediately, the protagonist heads to his favorite hunting spot, encountering a wolf along the way, an animal not common in that region. Joseph intended to approach it, but he almost trips on a bridge, and by the time he looks back, the wolf is gone. Returning to the barn, he is greeted by Catherine, naked on her horse. At first, Joseph is angry at her boldness, though he cannot resist her charms. Later, his mother interrupts his piano session to ask him to marry Rose, pointing out that her own poor health should not be a barrier to him enjoying his life. On the next school day, Joseph evaluates his students' poems, among which Catherine's stands out. It contains a message indicating she has something important to tell him. While driving her home, the teacher guesses that she is pregnant, though she confesses that she used a diaphragm during her first time. That reassures Joseph until she blurts out that she is still pregnant. As soon as he hears that, he slams on the brakes and gets out of the car. Before he has a panic attack, she confesses she was only joking and asks him to get back in. Even so, Joseph refuses, so she starts touching herself to provoke him. She succeeds, and they end up making love in the barn. At dawn, the protagonist receives a surprise invitation from Nathan to go hunting. While waiting for ducks, Nathan reveals that he does not kill for sport, except for the wolf that is roaming around town. Thanks to that, Joseph realizes that he was not the only one to have seen it. After that awkward experience with his sort of father-in-law, he returns to the barn for another encounter with Catherine, who lifts up her dress and suggests they have sex in the house. Joseph refuses immediately, so she believes he no longer loves her because he plans to marry Rose. Information she got from her new friend Robert. Concerned that she may have revealed something about their relationship, he hears her say that their affair is her most precious secret. Moments later, Dr. Evans enters the barn with news about Joseph's mother. He finds Joseph lying next to Catherine. For obvious reasons, the two men have a chat in which the doctor warns that she is too young. But Joseph wants to enjoy her while he can because she brings some color into his boring life. As a last resort, Evans tells him to remember his relationship with Rose. Feeling some remorse, Joseph invites Rose to the town restaurant to spend time together. However, Catherine also shows up, using the excuse that she wanted to see Robert. The girl says Rose is a good mother, but has not realized her son is depressed about her relationship with Joseph. At the same time, the girl touches her lover's leg, and he immediately stops her. After that, Joseph takes Rose home, and things get romantic in the garden. She invites him in, but his insecurities hold him back again. Later, during his piano lessons, the protagonist makes more mistakes than usual, and his mother notes that he is too distracted with Catherine, adding that she has always known about their relationship. Before they can continue talking, the elderly woman starts suffering severe pain. Joseph quickly puts her to bed in her room, hoping he can see her again tomorrow. While standing vigil, he drinks a bit too much and pays an unexpected visit to Rose to confess he is tired of living in the shadow of her late husband. He wants to live their romance to the fullest, even going so far as to strip naked in front of her. Despite his almost aggressive behavior, the woman also takes off her clothes, and they have sex in the living room, discovering a kind of happiness they had never experienced before. In the next scene, we see Joseph's mother's funeral, attended by nearly everyone in town. Joseph feels very distressed, so Rose reads the condolence letters on his behalf until she finds one out of the ordinary. A letter from Catherine, who says she can console him and asks if they can do it at the house. Joseph mentions that the girl was nothing more than a fling, but Rose believes he replaced her because of her older age. Devastated, she not only ends the relationship but also says she wishes he would die. To cope with his second loss of the day, the protagonist resorts to alcohol, at which point Catherine shows up to have sex in the house. However, he resists her charms because he still loves Rose. The girl leaves, furious, promising that he will regret not having chosen her. That night, Joseph, more drunk than ever, bursts into Rose's house, and out of pure pity, she lets him sleep on the couch. The next day, Evans speaks up in his friend's defense, telling Rose that his affair with Catherine was just an impulse, perhaps due to his midlife crisis. The woman reacts badly to that opinion. Joseph quietly gets up to leave, and when she notices his absence, Rose breaks down crying in the doctor's arms. At school, Robert becomes interested in learning about his late father. Joseph explains that he was his best friend and the best man he ever knew. Pleased with his answer, the boy warns him that Nathan knows about his relationship with his daughter. Back home, a nervous Joseph gets his rifle ready in case the veteran appears. Instead, the wolf shows up with a fresh wound on its paw, possibly inflicted by Nathan. Just then, Nathan appears. Though instead of fighting, he just wants a civilized conversation, and he has even brought his wife, who has been battling alcoholism for a while. During the chat, Nathan explains that he moved to this remote town to keep all the good-for-nothings away from Catherine, even though she still got her way. He acknowledges that Joseph is a decent man and that his unstable daughter was the one who led him astray. As soon as the couple leaves, Catherine surprises Joseph by insisting on the idea of marriage. With great delicacy, the teacher admits that he loves her enough to realize she deserves someone more suitable to her age. She responds with a kiss and mentions that she has done something bad. At that moment, Joseph sees his barn on fire with Catherine's horse inside. Although he manages to get the animal out, it dies from its injuries. Its owner weeps inconsolably for him, for although she started the fire, she believed Joseph could save the horse. The next day, the protagonist notices that one cow managed to survive the fire, a symbol of a new beginning. He immediately gathers his savings and visits Rose to ask her forgiveness for cheating on her with Catherine. According to him, he was carried away by impulse, although he felt something similar with Rose on that passionate night. Luckily for him, she answers that she also wants to let herself be carried away by the moment. In the final scene, we see the couple on a beach, where Joseph hesitates to enter the water because of his bad leg. However, Rose encourages him to join her so they can admire the sea together.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.